Hello and welcome to Hotline Link episode 193, Groups is Done edition. And boy, did everything go according to plan. I think everybody could have predicted how all these games would go, and it's just like what we've been saying for the past couple weeks on this show. It's all expected. Everything is fine. This show is brought to you by Alienware and Mountain Dew Game Fuel. We thank them so much for sponsoring the show. But now let me go to my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, who just woke up. How's it going, Mark?
I did not just wake up. I took a
still
1.5 hour nap at 1:30 to about 3. I'm feeling great. Like you said, surprised that at the end of the day, when you step back, a lot of what happens every time there's Worlds almost.
Yes.
It was only C9 getting out. China having a couple chokers who look terrible. LCK dominating group stage. Like, it's actually kind of expected.
Yeah,
tiebreakers going Europe's way. NA failing tiebreakers.
We have a frequent caller who was in the Twitch chat before this, and she was like, Skyella, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this was like so exciting. This was like the best Worlds ever." And I was like, "When did you start watching?" And she said 2019. I was like, yes. So for anybody who started in 2019 or later, North America getting a team out of groups, this is shocking and just never happens. And this time around, for the rest of us, it does. As crazy it is, I think a lot of people did not predict that this would go. This is, Mark and I were talking about this earlier when we were watching the games together. It's like if you had just averaged out all the Worlds and how things normally go down throughout since like 2014 or whatever, you would probably end up with a result of like C9 gets out, Europe gets maybe one team out, LCK looks great, and then one of LPL's biggest names like bombs out in an embarrassing way, and here we are. And you get two Western teams, a bunch of Korean teams, and some LPL teams. So that's not to say that the games today weren't great or that the groups weren't great. It's just it is funny how I think Freak on the broadcast said something like, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and I feel like that's a great way of talking about this. Well, our guest this week can talk about things from both a European and North American perspective, which is perfect because we have Ender for the first time ever on the show. How's it going, Ender?
Oh yeah, it's going great. I'm awake. First of all, I usually you'd ask me to do this show before, and it would just be at like 4 a.m. for Europe. I'm like, what? No.
You've been living in America for like 6 months, and I've asked you to do this show so many times.
Yeah, but that was because I didn't want to. But today I want to.
Fair enough. No, usually you had some reason, I think. I even asked you, I think, right before plans, and you were like, no, I'm trying to force my sleep schedule to change. So
that is true.
Yes. But I don't know, what has it been like for you watching Worlds and getting to enjoy it without having to be... I'm sure you would have loved to have been on the broadcast, but you also just got to enjoy it as a fan in some way. What has that experience been like for you?
Well, first of all, stress-free, which is very nice because Worlds is usually a very stressful time if you're actually working on the show, and drama-free as well, which is very, very nice. Also, it was fun to watch the games because I kind of got to turn my brain off a lot of the time and like not be freaking out about like what the teams are actually doing. I could just like appreciate a complete Fiesta game and not feel like I had to, watch for all the minutia of it. So it was enjoyable. Like the games today, I was like, oh my god, what is happening? But it was fun.
Ender, did you listen to Kobe and Vedius casting like the TL and Mad Lions games?
I did, yes.
I just felt like it was so funny to me, and I didn't see a Reddit thread yet or anything like that, but it was just so funny to me how you could tell how much both of those people wanted certain results to go through. And this is not me trying to start like a, oh my gosh, bias casting. I think it's fine and in fact somewhat enjoyable, but the sort of the tension underneath the cast for both of those were hilarious.
I'm gonna be honest. So I thought in the what was it? The C9 was the C9 match where they were trying to get out.
Rogue.
I'm trolling. Yeah, C9 Rogue. I actually thought that Vedius was reverse biased. He was like hyping up everything C9 did, even though I was like, I'm not sure if it was that great. But he was like going out of his way to make it not be biased for Rogue or anything. So I actually thought I think it's funny because I actually did the same thing last year when I was casting like Team Liquid versus Mad Lions and play-ins, where I was just like overly hyping the NA team just so people wouldn't call me biased, and it worked.
Yeah. I don't know. I just
think
thought it was very funny. Go ahead.
I think today, especially because it was the longest day, it was 9 games. Towards the end, I think you could just hear like them let the other person have extra space. So like when Mad's popping off, Kobe's just quiet, and like when Team Liquid was popping off, Vedius was just quiet. They're just like, fine, you take the hype. I don't give a fuck.
The moment after the game was done, whenever Mad Lions made it through, after Team Liquid had already been eliminated, and Kobe, they cut back to the caster desk, and Kobe is like, "Well, they did it. It happened. Really thought that we would be, both feeling the same way right now, Vedius, or we'd both be commiserating." I think he said commiserating together.
Yeah.
And Vedius is like, "You got Cloud9 out," or whatever. It was actually so good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It probably is, I guess, an interesting experience for you to get to just sit back and enjoy all this stuff. So, yeah, it's been good. Mark, how about you? What has Worlds been like for you? The schedule and everything.
you would largely know. We fucking sit in Discord calls playing Genshin Impact and pretending we're watching the games.
That's not always the case. We didn't do that at all this weekend.
I did it for the team.
Playing Teamfight Tactics.
You were playing Teamfight Tactics. Mark, what were you saying?
What? Oh, I was just saying. I mean, this weekend no, because Ashley's home. But like today, we tried to avoid watching the Team Liquid games, so we'd avoid jinxing them, and all we would do is say how fucking terrible NA is as a region. So we didn't. Ow, bro.
Just so everybody knows, Mark has just been attacked by his animal that so many people think I should get. That was literally an attack right now.
It's just how it shows love.
Jumped up where I wasn't ready for it. Anyways, yeah, we were just shitting on Team Liquid, and we just like, don't watch the game. Fuck them. They're trash. It doesn't matter. BDD is just gonna shit on them. Let's just keep playing Genshin Impact, and it almost worked.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this on Hotline League. I was thinking about how to do this, but I feel like this is the safest place for me to say this because I want to both mention this to my audience without it becoming a thing where it like breaks out onto social media and all that stuff. But I want to apologize because my coverage of Worlds, especially in comparison to previous years, has been incredibly lackluster. Because the basically just been getting hard declined. Like more and more, I think I've talked about this in previous years, but it's so hard to get interviews now than it used to be. I went back and checked. So in 2018, I got 33 interviews with players, even more if I count like, I don't know, other folks or whatever, but 33 players with interviews between groups and quarters. And in this same space, I think I might have gotten like 8 because they now don't even do interviews after quarters. Fnatic, this is not me trying to start shit or calling anyone out. It's just an example. But Fnatic didn't do any player interviews, to my limited understanding, in post games. Obviously, we were able to have Whip on Rift Reaction, but they were basically just having their coaches do it, which is really interesting because in some ways it's a violation of the rule set. But either way, it's been interesting to see. I mean, there were just times where like in the North American media Discord, we'd just be told like 2 of the teams that are playing on one of these final days just declined all North American media. So it's really tough. If before anybody who hates me or whatever comes out and it's like, well, that's because Travis sucks or whatever. Sure, maybe I suck, but this was a pretty widespread issue that affected, I think, a lot of North American media and just a lot of people. So it was just I don't know.
To hop in and defend media a little bit. I know not all of them are great. I know, there's always like the Reddit communities like, look at these dumb questions that people are asking. And people say, oh, well, the players just lost. Of course they don't want to do the interview. It's like, of course they don't want to do the interview. you still should and need to, because this is at the end of the day an entertainment product, and that is a huge portion of the entertainment. Is the human element and how people are feeling and experiencing the losses, and going through their, like, the entire point is to connect with your fans, and so to just not do that part of the job is not good. And I don't care that the players are tired or unhappy. I, in their position, would feel the exact same way, but that's also like part of the job. And so when it doesn't get done, I mean, you can point fingers at who you want to point them to, but that is a problem.
Two things I'm seeing in chat. Some people are saying they're fine with Fnatic. I look, obviously I'm on the media side, but like,
wouldn't you want to hear this? Are you kidding me? You don't want to get a microphone in front of those guys and be like, "What the fuck is the team atmosphere right now?" Are you kidding me? That's
not
exactly
to mention,
what I
like,
want to know.
This stuff will happen. Like, these are part of the big stories at these events where, like, you have an emergency sub or whatever. So just being like shutting off all access to the team in those moments, I think is, I don't know. It's annoying to me because Riot has a rule in the world's rule book that says that you have to have 3 coaches and players. So some combination, but 3 individual people after every game do interviews. After the end of their last game of the day or whatever. Like, once a day you have to do all this stuff. And Riot seemed to just allow them to break that rule, or didn't enforce it, because they were just having coaches do the interviews instead. And like, I don't know. In traditional sports, there's all sorts of crazy shit that happens, and then you still have players get access, or have access to players and stuff. So, I mean, I've talked about this stuff for years, and so I'm not going to harp on it for too long, but it's always just disappointing to me. Fnatic is probably the most popular team that was at the event, and I'm not trying to even single them out, because like RNG, I think, was doing the bare minimum, which is like 3 interviews a day for some of the days at the very least. And I don't know. I don't have complete visibility on all this stuff because there's not like complete transparency from Riot and the teams on which teams are doing what and who they're accepting and all that stuff. But it is like this will just lead me to the final thing I'll say. Is somebody in the chat said something like, can't wait to have Travis live at Worlds next year. It's in the US. I probably will want to go just for the sake of going, but whenever it's like, should I fly to, let's say, New York for groups, if it's in groups, and spend a bunch of money for myself and a video person, and there's just days where I'm getting no interview access or whatever, it makes it so tough. And I don't know. It's been this way for years. It's gotten worse for years, and it doesn't seem like there's much concern about it. So I don't know if it'll ever change, because there's a ton of media companies that are just fine losing money because they're startups and all that stuff. But it is an unfortunate thing. Anyway, Peter Dunn says, hope EG qualify. With the rumors I'm hearing about off-season stuff, I feel like there's a good chance EG does, because I get the feeling you guys are going to have a killer team.
Oh, leak some shit. Let's leak some stuff. Let's have some fun.
There's nothing yet to leak. Like, we're
Really?
still at the early stages where there's just rumors and rumblings, unless where it's like people
start a rumor mill.
I heard that Reckless is available.
Shit, yeah.
Wonder, perhaps. I'm
Damn,
just
dude,
saying.
You got some good sources. Where are you hearing this?
Yeah, well, I heard it. Well, I don't want to. Carlos Rodriguez, potentially.
Grabs.
He's my inside informant.
I am very curious to see. I don't know. This will be the last Hotline League, I think, before we start the rumor mill and all the off-season coverage and stuff. So it's really interesting. The only thing that makes it really tough is, like, I always feel a little uncomfortable covering this stuff when a team is still in Worlds, like a North American team. And so, like, let's say I hear something about C9, it's like I feel awkward putting that out there while they're still.
But Fudge is in chat. He can tell you if it's true or not. This is the perfect time to leak your C9 rumors. Yeah, Fudge.
Yeah,
Fudge just said nothing to
I've
leak.
heard Fudge is heading to amateur, actually, down from academy down to amateur. Yeah, that's the big rumor. No, would you have any rumors for us, Fudge? I'd love to hear.
Fudge, what was your reaction when you saw Perks take that W back? Did you guys see it in game, or was it like, did that was something that you hit in VOD review?
All right, well, Fudge probably no longer going to be in chat. This poor person.
He's gone. He's gone.
This poor man. It's like what time? It's like 4 or 5 in the morning in Iceland, I think, and you're trying to.
I mean, they got out. I would not do this if they lost that game. I would never say that shit. He said didn't see it.
Didn't see it. There we go. Okay.
I'm sure that's the kind of shit like absolutely you don't want to tilt your team. So if they ask what happened, you just go, "Oh, I got caught," you know?
No,
You
Perks for sure said in comms it's just the matchup.
He didn't say, "Oh, I was out, but then I accidentally took my W back and killed myself."
Okay. Anyway, we talk about Worlds because Worlds happen. Enough of my drama mongering. We made it out. At least one of our teams did, and so did Europe.
Heyo.
So we're now equal with Europe, right? NA equals EU, I think is the equation you were putting on Twitter, Mark.
We'll see
I
when
would
they
say so.
meet in semis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, Ender, if we agree that it's based on progression. Well, first off, Ender, where are your allegiances now? You're wearing a Cloud9 hoodie. Are you an EU boy still through and through? Where's your heart at?
I mean, my allegiances are to whoever gives me free clothes, honestly.
Okay, so you're an NA fan right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the best part is, they won't actually meet until finals if I'm reading the bracket right. So I don't have to choose until that happens. So.
Well, the question I was going to ask is, if Cloud9 makes it past quarters and EU doesn't, that definitely means NA is better than EU, right?
Absolutely. I think
looking at that bracket, I think that's a reasonable thing to say, right? They both have an equal.
I mean, they're both playing a Korean team.
Yeah, exactly.
Same.
That's just facts.
One might have won 3 straight domestic titles and Worlds and MSI during that run.
Gen G also won Worlds, so take that.
It's true.
True.
Can't really argue.
Okay, I don't even know where to begin. I think there's just so much stuff we should maybe just dive into.
I mean, we can go like group by group, or do you want to go calls, or what do you want to?
I mean, so there's no okay. Obviously, we have the results. Everyone should know the results. We don't need to super go over it, but there's that. Trying to see if there's anything else that we can talk about. I'm sure there's like format. There's been a lot of emerging format discussion. Specifically, I noticed that as soon as Mad Lions got matched up against Dan1, I saw Shox immediately tweet that she'd be in favor of a double elimination format. So there's a conversation starting. We talk about all the tiebreaker stuff. I don't know if we want to talk about like the deletion of all chat. Technically, it does impact. I think it will impact like Worlds and competitive play, right? Because
it will, because in Pro View you won't get to see teams dunk on each other.
Yes,
it can't be turned on for TR. You don't think?
I don't.
Imagine they would never do that.
Yeah. They don't ever. There are never engineering resources that I could tell that are really dedicated to esports, and so I feel like it's just whatever the default is the way it goes.
Well, I'm just like, how is the chat? You know, like, are they just gonna go into the code base and like select and just delete the code for all chat?
Chat says it doesn't affect customs, which I don't know how you can confirm that already, but okay.
I think it's only for matchmaking.
Yeah,
it's only match-made ones.
Then we're fine.
Then we're fine. We don't need to talk about all chat. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody could if they really feel passionate about it. I guess we haven't done an episode, Mark, since the first day. So we did talk about the Fnatic stuff, but we haven't talked, I guess, about any developments there. I mean, we don't need to get into like Whippo's personal life. I'll leave that for other shows that are a little less classy. But this is a classy show. But if we want to have any other conversations about it, we can talk about Captain Flowers. I want to get an interview with Captain Flowers. If any of you guys are ever in Captain Flowers chat, I'm going to message him. He's not always great at replying. Maybe he hates me. I don't know. I don't think he does, but feel free to let him know that I would love to interview him after he's done with groups, which will be tomorrow, right? So, but I am fascinated to see what this experience has been like for him. I don't think there's anything else major that has happened. Besides, I mean, obviously groups has been major enough for all of it, but is there anything else I'm forgetting, guys? I think that's it.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then Mark is already pulling colors right now. Do you want to explain how the show works, Mark?
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the show before or you're Ender and might not have watched it, the way this show works is that it's a live call-in show. So on Discord, we are I'm streaming Twitch chat right now with the Discord. If you want, go ahead and join up. Join one of the voice channels when you get here, pleb calls 2, or sub calls. Go ahead and mute your microphone when you get in there. And then up above in the pleb topics or subtopics text channels, that's where you're going to go and put your take. You can give predictions for matchups, reflect on the group stage, whatever it is you want to talk about. If I like your topic, I'll pull you from one of those voice channels that you're sitting in into the waiting room where you will hang out until it's your turn to come on air. We'll do a quick mic check, make sure everything works, and then you'll be here talking with us.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. Really do appreciate it, especially around Worlds. This is a good time for me to try to farm some subs. And so I appreciate it whenever you guys do that. And I'll be trying to do more streams over the next month or so, because I usually do a lot more during off season whenever there's like roster rumors and all that stuff to happen. So maybe that's a good enough reason for you to throw Prime the way. But make sure that you join the subtopics channel and put your topic in there, because it moves a little slower. And we only have 4 callers in the waiting room right now, so there's still room for people, because I'm sure there's a lot to talk about over the course of the show.
You want to get the first caller?
Yeah, go for it. Speaking of subs, thank you to Alien for the whole year. Thank you. Blaine, TJ Bruggerman, Mexican Armada, Blaine Blasphemy, Cheval, Corporal Slinky, Atis, Danny Zhang, and Daniel N92. Hello, Daniel N92. Good to see you. 37 months. Mark should be here with the person in a second. Andrew, you're aware that this is a call-in show, right?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Because you've never been on it. And sometimes people agree to come on the show and they don't understand what they're getting into because they haven't seen it before.
I'm aware.
So.
I've seen some.
You've popped
some
up in the
episodes.
chat. I've seen you.
I have, yeah.
Okay, our first caller is here. CloserByTomorrow is here. Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston,
Hey.
Massachusetts. Mark's neck of the woods. Have you called in before?
I have not.
Oh, welcome. First time caller. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I just wanted to talk about 100 Thieves and how they got the actual group of death, since they pulled SKT, and SKT pulled up much, much more than anybody thought they were going to. And then, EDG was also really good. So I think, they should just really be proud of the way they performed. They went 3-3. The first game against SKT was kind of bad, but, I feel like there's some jitters. But I think a common theme that I've been seeing with NA teams this year is that, we perform so much better once the pressure's off. And, you see that in prior years too, like with TSM, even though they didn't take a game last year, as soon as they were eliminated, they just started playing infinitely better. And for whatever reason, I think it's like a mental block. I think, if NA teams can find a way to channel like their week 2 energy when they're eliminated in week 1, things would be better.
So your take is, actually kind of just to clarify, do you think 100 Thieves performed well this Worlds, and like people, they deserve more credit than they're getting because it was the group of death? Or
yes.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Mark and I are often accused of being 100 Thieves haters, so let's throw it to Ender to start this. Ender, what did you think of 100 Thieves' performance this Worlds?
I mean, I would say overall, like, 100 Thieves performed basically exactly to expectations. I think that, like, complimenting them for a 3-3 finish in the group is a little bit generous, considering, like, they beat Detonation, Focus Me twice, which are expected wins against them. So I think, like, for me, the overperformance and the thing to be proud of is, like, beating Edward Gaming and, like, FBI and Toofy absolutely murdering Viper and Mako, who are, like, probably the best bot lane in the world or at the tournament. Like, there's a lot of people that would put them either there in, like, top 2. So I think, like, yeah, I think 100 Thieves can be happy with that win. I would say, like, overall Worlds, it's, like, unlucky you had to play against these two teams, but I would say overall positive, but let's not overhype the 3-3 record because of the teams they played.
Yeah, I will just say, like, I think it is true that they can be really happy with the EDG win. I feel like that's the only thing they can be happy about at this Worlds.
Well, their first DFM win, they turbo smoked them, but the second one was it should have been an L.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree that they were in a really tough group, but I don't know. Do you guys feel like TL looks better?
Well, so
than 100
I was
Thieves
going to
at
say,
this event?
I want to ask Ender, did you feel like, even though FPX collapsed, do you think Group A was actually easier than Group B?
No. Group B is for sure easier. Because I mean, in Group A you have 4 teams that legitimately have a case for making it out, and I think in Group B you only ever at maximum have 3.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like the teams in Group A, like C9 was playing better than 100 Thieves, and Rogue was playing better than DFM, excuse me. So if you swapped those two and put them in Group B, I feel like Group B suddenly looks like EDG probably drops more games if they're choking on the last day, like they kind of were. So,
100 Thieves are dropping games, right?
yeah, well, 100 Thieves was dropping. They didn't play very well against like SKT, but
I
they
think
beat
Mark's
EDG.
saying like Cloud9
Like FPX
would
and
have looked better
EDG
than
both
100 Thieves
choked on
did.
their last days, is what I'm saying. Like 100 Thieves, or excuse me, not 100 Thieves. EDG and FPX both choked on their last days. If you swapped 100 Thieves and DFM with the Group A teams in Rogue and C9, I feel like they could have taken games off EDG when EDG was struggling.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like it looks like Group B was more dominant, but I think it's just they couldn't even exploit EDG seriously when EDG was struggling.
Yeah. I'm certainly not embarrassed by 100 Thieves or anything like that, but I don't feel particularly like thrilled with their performance at this Worlds. I think like I'm happy to lump them into like the whole North American portfolio and say like, hey, this was great. Like we did send 3 good teams to Worlds this year, or the 3 strongest we've ever sent, I guess is the way I'd put it, which is what people were saying before. And normally we do have that like clutch or whatever team that's just like bustering down there, and like that was not the case this year with the 3 teams that we sent. But I still feel like, look, this was the North American first seed, and I don't know. There's probably a ton of 100 Thieves fans that'll get angry and say like our caller. Feel free to scream at me. I don't, because it'll.
No, I'm a
viewers,
C9
like,
fan. I just feel like 100 Thieves is getting a lot of hate. And
I mean, I know that T1 and EDG are like tough opponents. I personally just feel like TL and Cloud9 looked better at this event than 100 Thieves did. Maybe it's recency bias because of C9's like final day, because certainly there were several days where they didn't look great. But I don't know. What do you guys think, Mark and Ender?
I'll say I'm a little. So to be fair, I am not like doom scrolling Reddit like I would normally if I was casting Worlds. So I have not seen any of this 100 Thieves hate pop up. So I'm honestly
I don't think there is
any
really
that we're seeing that. Yeah, because like honestly, like if you're just looking at expectations, I think most people would put the group finishing in exactly this order. Edward Gaming first, right? It would be like EDG T1, 100 Thieves never making it out. So it's like a little bit surprising because again, to me, I think like actually just winning a game is like, oh, cool, that's better than I would have put for them. Like
even on like
seed.
even on like Rift Reaction and then other people's takes on it were that 100 Thieves could possibly take a game off of T1, and I think T1 just came up so much better than anybody thought they were going to.
Did they, or did EDG just underperform? Because like I feel like EDG is the only
as
team...
an SKT T1.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like did T1, like I am very curious to see what T1 looks like, and I'd love to hear from Ender and Mark about this too. Is like, is there a chance that because going into Worlds, everybody was on like the LPL hype train, and T1 had looked shaky over the year and all that stuff, and so like I get that maybe like people did not have that many expectations for T1, but there's a world here where like T1 had to face a shaky EDG that like was part of the LPL group that just did not look that impressive this World so far. DFM, who went 0-6, and then 100 Thieves, who, to Mark's point, like EDG looked shaky on their last day, and like 100 T wasn't. I don't know, whatever. So I am very curious to see if group actually maybe there might be a world where the opposite of your take is true, where Group B was not the group of death. In fact, Group B was kind of the group of life in some ways, and T1 looks better than they should because they did not face as strong a competition. Mark and Ender, am I crazy for saying this?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think so. So the weird things is like I would think like looking at the tournament like afterwards now, like honestly, Group C is kind of the group of life in a way because of the situation with like Fnatic. Because like Group C was never supposed to be Hanwha making it out, in my opinion. Like that was always supposed to be Fnatic and Royal. So like that was like really shocking to me. And then I think like yeah, Group A and Group D were always going to be like really close between a lot of the teams. I would say like Group D is maybe even like a group of life-ish. If you're considering like LNG and Team Liquid as underdogs in that group, I think they had like really, and I mean they had tiebreakers. They had like super legit chances to make it out. I would just say like with the whole like new format of there being 4 seeds from the top 2 regions, like I think we have to kind of rethink group of life, group of death.
Yeah,
because I think that
maybe I shouldn't even
you
use
just
that
have-
phrase.
Yeah, I think you just have really hyper competitive groups now. So like even
But
like,
is there a chance that T1 looks better than they should because their group had less competition, Ender? Like, do you
I think yeah, no, honestly, no. I think T1 are just a good team, right? Like just overall, and I think that yeah, I would never have doubted T1 to make it out of groups. Like that is just like really shocking to me. And then I also think that everyone is hard overreacting off of group stage. Like it blew my mind that we're just like saying LPL teams are like they're not doing. Oh my god, they're not as good as we thought they were. LPL
did you watch
is doomed.
FPX?
Yeah. Oh, I mean FPX. Yeah, FPX absolutely destroyed. But that was one day, right? Like they showed up and they absolutely bombed a single day, right? So like yeah, FPX bombed out of the tournament, but I think that making like sweeping conclusions about the LPL is just insane. Like if you take it, because I think after Dom1 and T1 secured their first spots, everyone was like, "Oh, Korean dominance, it's back, they're owning." In 2019, all 3 Korean teams were first seeds, and only one of them made it past quarterfinals, and it was T1, and they lost to G2 in semis. So they didn't even make it to finals with a single team in a year that they had 3 teams at the top of the group. So I think that groups are fake news. And honestly, we need to stop overreacting. Best of 5s are completely different.
Mark, what do you think about all that?
I mean, I agree that I don't think SKT is overrated. Or like.
Please say
looks
T1 because
drastic.
I get screamed at when I say SKT and interviews and stuff with them, and I always say SKT, and I get tricked into saying SKT. I feel bad.
Okay, whatever. They're fine. I agree with Ender's point. There's been a lot of times where like teams that get the first seed in the group don't end up winning. Like Fnatic got first seed over IG that year, and IG just like slammed everyone in playoffs aside for the one quarterfinal thing that they played because they ended up playing the other tournament favorite because they got second seed. And the closest match they ever played was in the quarterfinals. You know, like there's a lot of times that something like that happens. Someone has a bad draft and they drop a game, or they just choke or whatever. So I definitely agree with Ender a little bit. I will say this time around, I'm a little sus on the LPL teams. I haven't been super convinced on a lot of them. We'll have to see, of course. You know, it's still up in the air. I think EDG is probably the one that I have the most faith in.
Yeah.
Between them and RNG, but they're going to play first anyway, so immediately you're going to get that answer. And like even that doesn't really help you evaluate the LPL team's strength until they play the semifinals. But then like they're playing Gen G and C9 again. I feel like people are going to like it's going to be a really hard year to evaluate the LPL's level because of this. And then they're going to get to finals and you're going to get slammed by Damwon because Damwon legitimately looks like hands down the best team in the world.
Yeah, I think yeah, assessing LPL strength is challenging, of course, because I think like FunPlus just ruined everything by bombing out. Because LNG were never supposed to make it out of Group D, in my opinion. And like I don't count 4 seeds a lot of the time. Madlands copium. But yeah, but like it's weird too, because like yeah, T1 playing Hanwha and like Hanwha probably shouldn't weren't supposed to make it out of Group C and stuff. So it's just a weird year, I think.
Yeah. On one point about the caller said about 100 Thieves playing too safe, I do feel like that hurt them quite a bit in that SKT series, and I think you could see that they had a lot of talent. I mean, FBI and Huhi were either destroying bot lanes or getting destroyed, but like playing pretty aggressively, but it felt a lot of times like the rest of the map didn't, and they got stuck in those situations that it feels like plague NA teams, you know, like the caller was saying about just not forcing the opportunities. And it was funny seeing people like joke about like, oh man, they have flashes up, you can't engage. And it's just one of those things like you have to force it. Even if it's like a 60-40 fight that like is in favor of your opponent, you still need to take it to get the flashes down so that your ult comes back up in a minute and a half and their flash is still down for another 3.5 minutes, and you need to force again, and you get like this kind of multiplicative bonus for being an aggressive team when you have a team fighting team comp. And like North American teams, one, often don't force enough when they really should, and they need that like aggressive mindset to, one, punish the enemy team so that they can't set up or they can't poke you or they can't get vision control for free. Like you actually need to contest these things, and then to actually punish again once you get the flashes down. Stuff like it's something that we've seen time and time again, and that's why I think the Perks, the C9 run was very refreshing, because like Perks was fucking running it in the game that they actually won, qualified. But he ends up with the most damage on the Blanc and makes a ton of huge plays down the line, and just shows how much you actually can fuck up in a game and still win. I feel like that's what
especially
one of the
this
big
Worlds.
takeaways. Yeah, like teams throw a bunch of times. Like teams get big leads in the early game, and then it's like a 50-minute fucking game, and they're flipping Baron like 3 times in a row. Like you can fuck up, and I think teams just like they get in their head that like they just assume that like we're playing T1, they're gods, they're never gonna not flash a Malphite ultimate, and it's like, bro, they're probably gonna get fucked up. Just do it.
I think an interesting way to end this conversation is just if you had casters and analysts who had not been following the LCS all year long, didn't know how things went down in playoffs, and you asked them which of these, what rank the 3 Worlds team or LCS Worlds teams by who you think plays first, second, and third. I don't feel like in LCS, I don't think most people would say 100 Thieves was probably the team that came out and won finals. And I think that that's why it might be a little fair to feel like they underperformed a bit, because I just don't. I don't know. I don't think that they played up to the standard of what they were able to accomplish in the LCS finals, where they just stomped Team Liquid. So I don't know.
I think that happens to NA seeds a lot, though. I mean, like C9 is consistently the 3rd seed, and last year TSM was 1st.
True, but that doesn't mean that I'm not. You're right. Like to what I was saying earlier about what Mark and I had said. Like everything played out the way it so frequently does at this Worlds, but that still doesn't mean that like our first seed underperforming is not part of it. And I feel like 100 Thieves kind of underperformed compared to what they expectations were.
And to be fair, like winning and losing is not fully binary. Like, okay, you dropped a game to SKT, fair enough, but you did it in a way where you kind of were not doing anything. That's more embarrassing. That's going to feel worse as a player. Like you can't look back and hang your hat on like, well, we gave them a good run for their money. And I think that stuff can make a 3-3, which you would say, oh, hey, they beat one of those teams that are really good in their group, still not feel great, because there was that game. There was the game against DFM that they should have lost, and they had some insane fucking backdoor punt someone into the Nexus here so that Tryndamere dies right away, or the Fountain Laser. Like those kinds of games show up in the record as like the same kind of stuff, but it's really not for how it feels.
Yeah. Hey, Closer, thank you so much for the call. Closer by tomorrow, I should say, because you're not 100T Closer. Though your take, maybe you've learned an American accent. Anyway, is there anything you want to shout out before we go on, or before we take a quick break?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. Shout out to Alienware, Game Fuel, and shout out to C9. Very reminiscent of the 2017 Fnatic run. And as a fan, that was just a great day to watch, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Speaking of Alienware, it's time for our Alienware break, our ad here. They have announced a new setup for their 25th anniversary. It's awesome to see this. I think if you head over to, we don't have the banner up yet. We will soon, but I think if you head over to Alienware.com, you should be able to see it. Yes, you can click on the new Alienware. Oh, wait. Is it still hidden? I mean, it's been announced, but they might not have... because it's not available yet. Perhaps it's not up. But you can take a look at all the news coverage that has come out around it, where they basically have a new desktop system for their Auroras. So still this awesome computer that you may know, but a slightly different look. More space. They're changing a whole bunch about it. It looks really cool. In fact, one of the neat things that I'm really excited about, and we'll see I'm not sure if I can get the panel on the correct side because otherwise it would look really sick behind me on this desk. But they have this transparent panel now so that you can see into the desktop if that's like a situation that you've liked in the past with other computers, or if you've built your own, you can now have that experience on the new Aurora desktop. So this just came out in celebration of their 25th anniversary, and the new case has done some really cool things, including a decrease to CPU temperature, an increase in NVIDIA GPU performance, and a decrease in fan volume. It's just really cool. I highly recommend you take a look at this, and just congratulations to Alienware on their new Aurora desktop. They did like a really cool stream last Friday. Unfortunately, it was like right when Cloud9 was winning, so I had to go catch up on it afterwards. But it's just fantastic to see the new Aurora. I'm really excited about getting one myself, and I think people who are interested in these types of things, really cool cases like this or whatever, will be interested in taking a look at it because it's quite the good looker. Anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for their support of the show. You can check them out at alienware.com/Travis. I'm sure as soon as, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, if it's been a day or two since we've come out, you'll see the banner updated on my page so you can check it out as they've only recently announced it. Anyway, thanks so much to Alienware for their support of the show. Okay. Mark is off to grab the next caller automatically. Love to see it. Rennie the Croc, thank you for the 9 months. John G365, and it's Kyler. Thank you, everyone, for the subs. Blaine is here. Blaine, you convinced Mark to get you back on the show. You were messaging me about it, and clearly you were able to convince him.
We pay up bets here.
Remind everyone where you're calling from.
I'm calling from North Vernon, Indiana.
Okay, so you were on the show, I think, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago when Spawn was on.
2 weeks ago when Spawn was on, and what was your take in that episode?
That we would make it out of the group of death, C9.
C9 would make it out of the group of death. What was your reasoning?
The NA hopium. Remember, he loved the take.
I mean, yes, I realized he liked the take for the NA hopium, but I felt like you had like a larger argument than I'm just pumping hopium.
I mean, I was pumping hopium, but I knew somebody might fall. To be honest, we had to have somebody fall. FPX, what'd they go 0-4?
They didn't do great.
Yeah.
I don't want their fun. I mean, they played multiple games, but yeah, they.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
you
what
also
would you like?
Not just
No. I said I'd come back. I'd try to come back if that happened, but my take was we just got the easiest semi draw ever. We could probably make it to finals, if not just win the whole thing.
Okay. Well, first let's talk about your C9 call, because I think, Mark, do we have any other C9 callers?
Yeah, the last one wanted to be a C9 caller.
He was he had 100 Thieves take, so I use it for that. But this is the big C9 call, I figured.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's address your first part, which is the group's part. I am very proud of C9. I am very happy they made it out. It feels really great. Thank fucking God FPX sucked ass at this tournament, because I feel like there's no way we would have clawed our way back from the 0-3 start if it wasn't for FPX just completely collapsing, which is crazy. I think we mentioned this on previous episodes, but FPX was like a potential first seed from LPL. People expected them to win. It was a huge upset that EDG won in the LPL finals, and some people still thought that FPX was going to be the best LPL team at this event because they thought, okay, well, maybe it was like a fluke or something like that EDG won. And then they just showed up and they like sucked. And it's actually wild. And I think, again, I'm so happy C9 was able to step up and like take that opportunity, and they showed it remarkable fortitude, because a lot of teams that are 0-3 after the first week would not be able to claw their way back in, but definitely could not do it without the help of FPX. And so I don't know. What were you going to say, Blaine?
Can I elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah.
All right, so there's no way that would have happened had Rogue not done what they did that day and FPX not absolutely just shit the bed. There's no way that happens.
Well,
and Ender, nice hoodie, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know, Mark or Ender, if you guys have any thoughts on like how. Okay, how? Here's a good question for either of you. How much better did C9 look on their last day of groups, and does it feel like they really made giant leaps and bounds from the first days that they played? Because I think that this will be a good. Once we answer this, it'll be a good kind of jumping off point for the bracket side or bracket stage or the elimination part of the tournament, because not elimination. What am I thinking of?
Knockout?
Knockout. Thank you. It's been a long week. The knockout stage of the tournament, because yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if you guys think C9's really improved a ton.
Don't know.
And that's why we'll leave it.
Oh.
Eder, do you think they made big improvements?
I mean, I doubt like the team behind the scenes made like you can't like improve that much like over the course. I will say they showed up and like had a much better day. I think that Twisted Fate is unironically like completely broken, and that helped them a lot. I also think their bot lane played much better on the final day as well, which certainly helped them. But
that sounds
yeah,
like an improved read on the meta and improved gameplay to me. So it sounds like they did improve a ton.
Somewhat, but I feel like, like the feeling of Cloud9 coming in was, okay, they have a lot of really talented players. If things click, they can kind of take anyone down, but they're inconsistent, kind of drop games to anyone. And we saw it through play-ins, drop games to DFM. Here they beat FPX and Rogue twice. Clearly they're good, but also in some of their wins, like Perks is just dying all the time. You're still seeing that inconsistency. I think Blabber's had a really good tournament. I think that has been really nice to see for him, just having such bad international performances compared to his domestic ones. I feel like that's maybe the biggest bright spot for me. But otherwise, their bot lane and Perks had a better day than usual. But there's no guarantee that when they play Gen G, they're not just going to revert to like a DFM game again in the tiebreaker.
But there's no guarantee that they won't.
Yeah.
Very good point.
But like,
wonderful analysis. Go ahead, Blaine.
But like, back on my take, we got literally the easiest quarterfinal draw we literally could have got.
Yes. Well, that's why I was headed towards this, because now it's time to talk about what they can do. Okay. Well, what do you want to explain for everyone at home why this was the easiest they could have gotten?
Because out of the 4 pool 1 seeds, that was the easiest one we could have drawn.
Oh, great point, Blaine. Well,
yeah.
Obviously, you said that it's not just the. I think you also feel like the other side of.
Oh, dude, we can't be in the group with Damwon, and all the other hard teams got put over there, other than EDG.
Yeah.
We have to get past EDG, true, but I still feel like it's possible. I said we'd get out of that group. I still feel like it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, like let's say the favorites on the other side get through. That's T1 or Damwon. I think it makes a lot of sense that C9 would, again, assuming they can beat Gen G, or in a scenario where they do, would probably want to face EDG over T1 or Damwon. I mean, Mark and Ender, is that a fair assessment?
I mean, that this is the freest quarter, technically, yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I feel like
I don't know.
I mean, I'm 100% down with the Hopium from Blaine, given that he was huffing Hopium before we knew FPX was going to suck and they were going to choke, and he was already predicting that.
You told me I was wrong.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like you were on the Hopium hype train when it looked dire, and now that we have the stars aligning to give us an easy path forward, I should just back you up. And, you want to keep huffing that Hopium.
Well, hang on.
Let's go.
All the way to finals.
Blaine, you have said that you think it's the easiest draw we could get. You didn't say, like, before you were like, C9's making it out. You're not saying in this situation C9's making it out. So far, you've only said it's the easiest draw we could
they'd get to finals.
What? He said they make finals.
Oh, you think they're going to finals?
Yeah, that was my take. Once we got we got that draw on the draw show, I'm like, if we could just get past EDG, this is so free.
You don't even know if you're playing EDG yet.
Sorry, I think maybe you said that and I just didn't process it because it was such a, like, that was Hopium overload. Okay. Mark and Ender.
I've been huffing Hopium for like the last month and a half, so
I think okay. Here's a good. I'm trying to wonder if there's ever been a better chance for C9 to make finals at a Worlds, a better pathway.
The 2018 was the easiest for sure. They played Fnatic in a semifinal.
True.
Okay. Is that Fnatic really that much worse than EDG or RNG? From what we've
True.
seen so far this tournament? EDG,
That was back with Caps.
Absolutely yes.
That was back with Caps.
EDG
was on the
dropped
lineup,
games
right?
to 100 Thieves.
Undoubtedly yes.
Reckless and Caps, man,
yeah,
and Hilly.
Undoubtedly yes.
Are they really that much better than that Fnatic roster? I don't know. They dropped games to 100 Thieves. They're getting shit on by SKT.
Dude, I want whatever you're
EDG's
having.
EDG, they look a little sussy bakas.
Jesus.
Mark's obsessed with that. He tries to use it. As much
Dude,
as
and
possible.
you were just last call, maybe it was 2 calls, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
You were telling me that if you put C9 in that group, they probably could have taken some games off EDG.
True.
Now I'm just asking you to do it 3 out of 5 times. It's not
Not
that crazy.
gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Also, originally when you were saying that, I thought you were saying if you like sub them in for DFM, it doesn't change the fact that I think they could have won a game. But
Well, given this is the first episode or the only episode we're doing before quarters, let's maybe not get ahead of ourselves. Gen G.
Okay.
Like, what are the chances they get past Gen G?
I wouldn't give them favorable odds, but I would say that it is possible.
40-60? 30-70? You mentioned the odds. I mean,
Somewhere in that, in that range, I think.
I feel like
people in the chat
it-
really like the 40-60 number, it looks like.
I think I like 30.
I like 40-60, but it's also the kind of thing where they could get 3-0'd and I wouldn't feel any different about the odds you gave me. They could get humiliated 3-0'd and I'd be like, oh, coin landed down today. We got the DFM roll where, you know.
I mean, the great news is that Gen G looks like, from their performance, they look very vulnerable, right? This is not like a situation where we're going up against a Korean team where, like, oh, they've just been unbeatable or they look so good or like, and it like they got bruised and battered and almost didn't make it out. They were 1 game away from not making it out of.
Yeah, and Cloud9 got 2 wins out of 6 games. Like,
True. I said the stars
very
aligned on that one.
vulnerable.
They got-
Very vulnerable.
They got 3 out of 7. How dare you? You're not going
Okay.
to count their other win over Rogue in the tiebreaker?
No, wins against Rogue are meaningless.
2 of those
man.
were against Damwon, dude. No one's beating Damwon this tournament.
I mean, except C9. You're right. They're going to win Worlds, actually.
Whoa, the caller said they're making it to finals. I don't think I said they're winning.
No, Mark just told me they were winning Worlds because they're surely playing Damwon in the finals. So there you go.
No. Damwon 3-0s their entire way through this and just wins.
Okay, Mark. If Ender, it sounds like what you're saying 40-60 or 30-70.
30-70.
30-70. Mark, are you giving them even odds against EDG? Or sorry, against Gen G?
No, I took 40-60, I said.
40-60? Okay.
I feel like Gen G's late game looks really bad. Also, Mad does some tricky stuff, I think, to hang in the games and are good in the mid to late game. But C9 in their knockout game versus Rogue, it was just like insane plays back and forth the entire time. Like, I feel like that's the kind of series that it's going to be if they don't get blown out early. I think the biggest concern for me would just be the BDD show. Like, BDG has hard shit on some games and just ended them. He ended Team Liquid. He crapped all over Icon once. Like, there's a chance that, you know, with Perks being a little coin flippy right now, that there's going to be a game where it's just like, oh, BDD has 3 kills in 10 minutes, and him and Blabber like coin flipped a skirmish mid and lost it. So
Perk says that they're playing the he's facing the worst mid laner in the quarterfinals. Did you see this clip on the Cloud9?
he's a showman. I'll give him that.
You gotta love Luca.
Does he know that RNG are in quarterfinals?
Oh, maybe he missed that memo.
Maybe. It's possible.
All right. Well, listen, our friend Blaine, I know you pulled it off once. I don't know if you're going to be able to do it again because it sounds like Mark and Ender both don't. Like, I would have given 50-50 odds of beating Gen G, but I don't think that I think that it's going to start diminishing pretty rapidly after that. So I don't know if they're making finals, but we'll see. I mean, they couldn't make it against Fnatic, but this time around, to Mark's point, they're facing considerably easier teams in the semis if they make it. So maybe it'll happen. God, can you guys imagine what it would? How fucking crazy! I mean, C9 would just get smacked around by Damwon, but the idea of an NA team in the finals.
Yeah, no,
that's
one more
fucking
thing.
crazy. Okay.
2018, we took a freak of freaks out. Dude, I'm feeling 2018 Cloud9 right now. I'm feeling it.
Remind me how Cloud9 looked in the groups in 2018? I'm trying to remember.
We went from play-ins to semis.
Yes.
About like we're doing right now.
I know.
They looked.
Age.
Did they get out in a tiebreaker, or were they actually like?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
lost.
they did. Yeah.
Well, so they went 4-2, but they lost the tiebreaker for first against RNG.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling 2018 Cloud9 right now, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. Blaine, anything you want to shout out before we go to our next caller?
I just love coming on. Can't wait to come back after we, get back out again. But
I
shout out
think in
to
order for you to come on,
Alienware,
you made the
Gabriel.
bar finals, so I think you don't get to come back on and brag until they make it to finals.
No, I won't try until I do, unless
Okay.
I got a different take. But
Yeah, sure.
Alienware, Game Fuel, love you guys. Let's go.
Very good. Thank you so much for the call. Thank you for the sponsor shout outs. We'll catch you later.
Yeah, no problem.
See ya.
Later.
Is this the meta? Callers just come in and shout out all your sponsors at the end?
They do, yeah. And this is not even anything that I've like. They do this on their own. It is actually
Wow.
why this show is the TGI cash cow. Yeah. The jewel of the TGI empire. Okay. Kippy, thank you. Yeah, welcome to the show, Ender. Thank you, Kippy, for the prime. Thank you, CJ Fox.
Am I getting another caller, or are we doing a sponsor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lies, he bribes them, says I am Elvis. Travis has a gun to the call. Jesus, Twitch chat.
Settle down.
Who? Somebody just says he's so baked, and there's no. Oh, the caller is baked. I was trying to figure out who you were suggesting was baked on the episode. Yeah. Paid actors on the line. Yeah, these are all our friends. Jay is here. Jay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. Okay. What do you want to talk about on the show?
First, I just want to assure chat I am not baked. I don't know about the previous caller, but I'm not about that.
Well, let's hear your take first, and then people can decide.
We'll decide.
All right. Well, first, I just want to say dudes don't usually give each other compliments, but Ender, you're a good-looking dude. You should be told that. My take is that adding the fourth team from LCK and LPL made this group stage the best one that we've ever had. Because there was no free wins.
Oh boy,
pretty much
this
in
boy
any
is
group.
baked.
I'm being honest, I missed the take.
The take was LPL and LCK fourth seeds being at Worlds made this group stage the best ever because there were virtually no free wins. I guess you would say DFM
Travis?
was the free win, Jay?
Open up a Twitch chat poll and do one option baked and one option based.
Okay,
Oh,
baked.
that's solid.
Oh my god. We should have called this show Baked or Based. That's
Baked or
what
Based
Hotline
is
League should have been
such a-
called.
Travis, we'll do another show together, and it'll be basically the same idea, but instead of being a live call-in show, we'll just get tweets sent to us, and we'll prune them there.
Oh my god, we have to make a show called Baked or Based. It's so good, and I
And
can't.
if they're baked, we take a hit of a bong.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to find different
and you
sponsors
just-
for that show.
You just see us fall off a cliff over the course of that show.
Did I ever tell you, Mark,
If it's-
that a cannabis delivery company reached out and wanted to sponsor some of my content, and that part of the payment would be in product? They were like, "Yeah, we'll pay you in product." Anyway, I wasn't able to take it, but okay. I'm putting the poll up.
That's based.
The poll itself is based.
Yes. Okay. So the poll is up. Baked or based? Let us know what you think of this caller's take. Okay. Do you want to elaborate on why you think that this made it the best groups ever?
Sure. So, Travis, you had asked me if DFM was a pushover. I would say maybe, maybe not. I don't think they're like as bad as some other wildcard teams have been in the past, but
Yes, yeah.
certainly I would say they were the weakest team in group stage, but I would also correlate that Group B was the least exciting of the groups, I think I would say. But yeah, I mean, my point is that when there's not like a total shitter in every group, as there kind of has been in Worlds past, there's not like a free win or free two wins for each team, which allows for more variance in the group. So like if everybody beats the wildcard team, then essentially makes it a group of 3 teams instead of 4 because everybody's getting 2 free wins. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess I would also add that having pretty much all solid teams in your group makes it makes your wins feel better, like more satisfying. Um, so like I don't know, let's say it didn't really happen this year because, like I said, there weren't really shitter teams. But let's say an NA team got into groups, beat the shitter team from a wild card region, and then went home, and that's it. It doesn't feel like they really proved much. It just feels like they beat up on a bad team. Um, but this year, even though I mean TL and 100 Thieves are unfortunately going home early, they have 3 wins each. First of all, TL beat 3 quality teams, and 100 Thieves. I mean, they can. I don't know, DFM maybe, maybe not, but they can hang their hats on a win against EDG.
So it's 56% to, or no, 54% to 56% in favor of based. The majority of people think your take is based. I disagree with a lot of this. So one, I think it's really sad, but I don't think that people are going to give TL or 100 Thieves or North America a ton of credit for the wins that they had, even though they didn't get out. I think, a couple months from now, the sad thing is people just remember those teams didn't get out. And I think in the past there have been times where we've had teams that have gone 3-3 in groups that maybe didn't have a shitter team or whatever. And then nobody ever goes like, yes, well, NA's like a decent enough region, because instead they just say like, oh, nobody made it out, so should NA even have 2 teams or a first pool or whatever? And so I just don't think that, like, maybe it feels good to us in the moment of the show, but I don't think that the majority of people are going to look back and be like, well, they didn't make it out, but they were competitive with good teams. So I just kind of disagree with that point. I'm trying to remember your other point. Just maybe it was just that the games were more entertaining because there was more on the line, or what? Can you remind me, caller?
Yeah, basically that having less like teams that didn't really belong in the groups made the groups more exciting because
less stomps or whatever.
There weren't any like guaranteed wins.
Yeah.
Well, I think beyond the quality of the game, it also means that on the final day, every game has a chance to matter. I mean, you get a lot. Like, think about how shitty group or day 2 of elimination days were. Like, we stopped watching halfway through the day and just played Genshin Impact because the other teams sucked in comparison. No offense to 100 Thieves, I just mean, like, they were knocked out. So the other days were fucking incredible because the teams were all closer to their skill level. Not just like a lot of those games were fiestas that you couldn't tell them apart, but from play-ins to that, maybe if you weren't watching closely, you turn nameplates off. But it's at least a high stakes game for that reason.
Caller, I think here's my other concern, caller. I think we were 2 tiebreaker games away from like one in each of these groups from an all LPL LCK quarters.
Yikes, that would have been insane.
I'm
That
correct,
would've been so
right? I'm
bad.
not thinking of this in a very stupid way, Mark.
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, I'm very hesitant to give the current format and the current 4-4 from each of these regions any kind of like hype, because there's a world where this world's just like all the callers tonight are just talking about how shitty the format is because it's just annoying as hell that there's even a world where you could have ended up with, I mean, this was the joke I made last week at the end of the show, which was like, if NA didn't get out, I wanted nobody to get out except for LPL and LCK teams, and I wanted them all to end up on either side of the bracket, because like I feel like you're gambling a lot with this format from an entertainment perspective, because you can end up with just like a really shitty worlds. And I hope that never happens, while we have this format, but there's a chance it could happen next year in North America whenever Worlds is happening. You know, like if Europe and North America are just slightly worse than they are this year, or LCK, LPL are slightly better, FPX doesn't bust her out and like fucking LNG wins that final game against Mad Lions, like you get this, and then that's what the second half of Worlds is. And like I know there's a ton of people, usually co-stream viewers, that are like, I just want to see the best teams play, who cares? That is just like not what this product is about. Or rather that is I don't think what the product should aim for or optimize for necessarily. So
I think as well, like you can fix that problem another way. Like if you want to have the 4 teams, like I think maybe you change how groups are, so it's not 4 groups, and then there's like differences like that, so you can actually seed the bracket better, because that's the problem with the bracket, is that the group stage, while maybe doing a fine enough job determining who out of those 4 teams should get out, it then doesn't have any way to tell of those 4, like, hey, Dom1 and SKT actually look way better. Well, now they're on the same side, and like they're gonna have to play each other, and the other side of the bracket looks way easier. And
I think Dota does 2 groups, for instance.
I've been pushing for 2 groups since like literally 2016, I think. Like I am so in favor of 2 groups, because then you have 4 teams, and you go, oh well, 1 plays 4, as opposed to like randomly picking 2 and 1s from different groups. And then like double elimination as well would give you more of those regional matchups, like you're saying. So if an NA team did make it, and then they lost, and then Mad Lions lost, let's say, then they might play each other in the lower bracket to stay alive, and then that's a really fucking hype matchup, lower bracket, a loser's bracket would also help solve some of these problems that I think you're currently facing. And to the caller's point, I think it worked out fantastically this time around. The groups were amazing. This bracket kind of sucks ass. And I think you can solve these problems in a lot of different ways, but I really do hope they take a look at it.
Yeah.
I think that it definitely helps with the competitiveness of the games, just without a doubt. And like if you go back and scroll through like 2019, 2018, like it's like evident in 2019, there were in all 4 groups, 3 of the groups had their 4th place team had 0 wins. One of the group, a team had 1 win. And
banger.
Yeah, it's just like it's just like very, very apparent. The irony of like being worried about like 4 seeds from LPL and LCK making it to playoffs is that, or making it to the knockout stage and like crowding out spots for NA and EU, is that that's currently what they're doing to wildcard teams in the group stage. But I think that the argument for better quality games, more competitive games in group stage and like crowding out wildcard teams is the same argument that I would then apply and say, oh, well, if we just have 8 LCK and LPL teams in knockouts, like, so be it. I guess we should not suck. And our first seeds should not be worse than the 4th best team from a different region. That's a completely different problem. And like, regardless of format, like that is when it is just complete doomsday for League of Legends in the West. Like, at that point, I just wouldn't even want to watch or play.
I mean, couldn't that happen next year, Ender? Are you gonna stop watching
again, that's not like the fault of the format. That is the format telling us, like, holy shit, you are so much worse than you were even like a few years ago. Give up.
I feel like teams, like regions, naturally go through like ebbs and flows of like how good they are, and that's fine. Like G2 was a super team. It might be a little while before Europe finds another team that they're that good, but Europe has consistently had okay performances in knockout stages as well. So it's not like they need a super team to do okay. But like in this instance, like you're saying, if somehow Mad Lions lost to LNG and just got knocked out by the 4th seed from LPL, that's a huge embarrassment. But I would hope that people would still give Europe a chance to recover. But I would also love a format that would find a way to preserve some multiple regions beyond just like the top 8. And if you have 4 teams from 2 regions, then you can fill that entire top 8. Like if it's a top 12 and some teams get seeded into a lower bracket right away.
I mean,
I don't know. There's some ideas.
So
I just think go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to me, like, changing the format so like you can sneak a team into top 8 or something and like cling them onto life is like kind of weird to me. I will say, like, I don't like the current format. Like, just like spitballing, I would actually really like to see something similar to how the first like Valorant Masters was run, where it was just like double elim best of 3s for like a long way through the tournament, and that's like you weed out the really bad teams early on, and then when you get to top 8 or whatever, you turn it into best of 5s or something like that. But I would actually really like to see something that feels more like you're playing a series on the day against teams, so it's like actually like super high stakes. When you have C9 playing against whatever, C9 playing against Rogue is like high stakes to best of 3. Team that loses goes to the lower bracket, and you play it something like that. But yeah,
It's funny because I was joking with Travis today when I thought for a second, because the Mad Lions LNG game looked a little sus for a little bit, if I remember correctly, and I was joking with Travis about how like if it was right after C9 lost their tiebreaker, I was like, if Mad Lions lose their tiebreaker too, we need Steve to money match Mad Lions
TL,
you settle their
C9,
best
but
of
you
3.
mean
Oh,
TL.
excuse me. TL, we need Steve to money match TL against Mad Lions and have a best of 3 to settle it because they're both 1-1 against each other. And like, I need to know who's the better team between these two for the regional pride. Luckily, Mad Lions made it out, so I know. I'm like, okay, fine, they're better. But
real talk, bring back Battle of the Atlantic, straight up.
I love Battle
Rift
of the Atlantic.
Rivals?
Yeah, no, but Battle of the Atlantic, and it's not garbage. Rift Rivals was that tournament meant nothing. No one cared.
Battle of the Atlantic meant nothing, right?
Yeah, but I felt like people cared. Maybe I was just like,
Yeah, they cared because it was
not
like
jaded.
2014.
Yeah, it was like early days.
Yeah, so like
yeah.
that was before people were just excited to see anything, and now it's like
Don't make it in the middle of the season. How about that?
there's no way not to do that. The season runs from January to November.
No, you run it after. Okay, so maybe you do. Oh, how
It's
do you
called
do this?
All-Star.
Oh,
Exactly.
it's for
this is
the
problem.
No, it's for the teams underneath first place. So instead of MSI, you send like the 2, 3, 4 seeds, and they do Battle of the Atlantic or something. I don't know.
like that.
That sounds sweet. In the month before MSI, that's hot.
But the month MSI, I don't think you're thinking of the schedule correctly. But we don't need to go into logistics.
Ender is not the detail guy. He's the big idea guy. Weren't you hyped to hear that your 2, 3, and 4 seeds are playing against Europe's 2, 3, and 4 seeds?
Yes.
And the 8 seeds, just to make it exciting.
Yeah, even get the 8, 9, and 10, just to
and then bring the academy teams against the ERL teams.
Oh my god!
I'm not sure if this is a baked or based take that Ender has.
This is a baked take right now.
This is definitely baked territory.
This is full baked.
I don't know. Okay, caller, are you more sussy about we got to get the Zoomers to watch the show? Viewership dropping. Are you more sussy about the format now?
Well, I'm not a Zoomer, but What do you mean? What do you mean? Am I sussy about the format now? Like the
I just feel
current
like okay, you
format?
called in and you seem to be a big believer in the current Worlds format and the team situation and all that. Now that Mark and myself and Ender have all expressed all this stuff, are you hanging on to your initial take, or have you moved from base to baked on it?
So you definitely gave me a lot to think about, like in terms of 2 groups could be a huge change, and that would just change the whole format of Worlds, and I've never really thought about that. I'm open to changing my take. I'm an open-minded person, Travis.
Okay.
I would definitely reconsider it. It just takes me more time to process.
That's fine. That's fine.
So I will stick by my take as someone who's watched every Worlds, that this was the best group stage I've seen, because it was just, we had like 6 tiebreaker games.
Yeah.
It was very close. It was exciting. It was awesome.
Well, that's the funny thing is like Mark and I have that whole thing where it's like, okay, this is like a classic Worlds thing, but it's definitely true that the groups ending, like we've never had a 4-way tie in a group before. Like that's wild. It's so wild, and it's so wild that we had to face Gen G and Mad Lions had to face LNG. Like it's just so wild the way that worked out. But yes, thank you, Jay, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to the TFT community. I'm coming for Charlie in season 6. Shout out to Hotline League. Everybody like, comment, subscribe. It's a wonderful podcast. Shout out to Alienware. Shout out to Game Fuel. That's all I got.
Thanks so much for the call.
Dude, thank you.
Catch you next time. Okay. Mark is off to grab the next caller.
Nice.
And let's see.
I will say I'll add on to that last comment and say it really helps when high-rated teams bomb out, like Fun Plus Phoenix.
Yes.
And like for me in person, like Mad Lions underperforming too. Like
Well-
you take back because like if you think about some of like the great groups of all time, like 2018, Gen G bombing opened up like the C9 versus Vitality run against RNG and all that stuff. Like,
or even just like the upsets that can occur, like Alliance getting kaboomed, which wasn't necessarily like them whatever, but yeah, like that stuff, like those up. I guess your point is upsets are entertaining, Ender.
True.
And that's the high level commentary you'll get here. Emulator is here. Emulator, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from upstate New York, but I'm from originally the Boston, Massachusetts area.
Jesus, everyone is calling from upstate New York or Boston, Massachusetts or Brooklyn or whatever. That corner of this country is just monopolized on the show. Mark very biased towards his home locale.
Northeast supremacy.
Emulator, have you called on the show before?
I've called once before.
Okay, well, you also sub, I think, a ton too, so thank you. I recognize the name. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I am on the show to talk about my thoughts about LCK right now. In particular, I wanted to talk about how I don't think LCK is like a significantly stronger region than the LPL or the LEC. What is happening at Worlds right now is more just like the 4 best mid laners in LCK of all time are playing, and it really shouldn't be diminished that it's like these 4 mid laners' accomplishments that are carrying Korea's performance at Worlds, not the Korean region as a whole.
Well, I love this because Chronicler just showed up in the Twitch chat, so he's gonna be able to react to what you're saying. It's fantastic that he's made his way in, and I'm guessing that Ender's take on this is going to be so true because he's the people overrate groups results guy, and so if your take is everybody believing in LCK right now because the groups shouldn't be, it's just these mid laners, then I'm excited to hear Ender agree with you. So, Ender, what do you think?
I think talking about the mid laner mid laner take is absolutely based. Like, that is just straight up facts. I think like overall, I think for a while now people have thought that like the gap between LPL and LCK is small, and most people would say LPL is probably stronger. Like, I would say LPL is stronger. I think the interesting thing there is saying like LEC isn't that far behind LCK, because I guess this tournament it's kind of hard to judge with Fnatic, but to me I still feel like there is quite a discrepancy there. I think that EU has been like pretty top heavy and has had some really good teams at the top. Like obviously G2 is the prime example. Like G2 like beat SKT twice in 2019 in BO5s, which is really, really impressive. But I don't know if that holds up. I'm disappointed that Mad Lions didn't perform better, and I am hoping they're going to do better in the BO5s, and I think they will do better in the BO5s. But I think like holistically as a league, I would definitely say LEC is worse than LCK.
Yeah, if I may just respond to that quickly. I definitely see what you're saying, Ender. And I guess like the way that I'm thinking about this is that I would definitely agree that like the top 4 LCK teams are probably stronger than anyone in the LEC. But I think it is because of these 4 mid lane players and how like the mid lane meta has developed in Korea as a whole, as like kind of a side effect of having great players like Faker and Showmaker, that I think like the mid lane pool is really, really good right now. In particular, like Chovy, BDD, Showmaker, and Faker are like, I would argue, the 4 best mid laners that Korea has ever produced. Maybe Rookie, you could consider that, but that's kind of getting into specifics. So I definitely would give like Korea like the mid lane pool over the rest of the world, but like I've seen so much like reactionary take lately about like, oh, Korea is the best because they got 4 teams out of groups. But like if I'm looking at like performance within groups and stuff like that, like I don't think as a whole Korean tops performed as well as like LPL tops, for example. I guess like Nuguri could be considered like one of either, but I would consider him an LPL top for like this purpose. So I just think that it's like really Korea's mid laners that are carrying them right now, and I would argue that like I don't think that Korean players that like aren't the mid laners are like as like so much stronger than their European counterparts.
So you're talking more about like individual player skill.
Really that like the individual players being like the individual Korean mid laners are like really, really carrying their teams and their region, and other individual players aren't really that far ahead.
Like the gap between LCK and everybody else exists in the mid lane mostly, is what it sounds like you're saying.
As of like Worlds right now, yes. That is kind of a better way of putting my take.
So I'm gonna disagree a little bit, not necessarily about the mid laner take, but about LCK not being better than a lot of the other regions. I think the LPL, we'll get into it a little bit more, but like this is a stat that Jat tweeted, but it's one that I think most people kind of know. From 2014 to 2021, LCK has sent 25 teams to the group stage. 19 of them have finished first in their group. They win their group 76% of the time. As well as the fact like that also doesn't include times that they get out second. I think there's been 2 teams, if I'm not mistaken, during that time from the LCK to not get out of groups. Like,
well, I don't think the caller's saying that the LCK's always been overrated. I think he's just saying now.
I'm saying though that like this thing is continuing to be true. They have all 4 teams get out of groups. LPL only had 2 of their 4. NA and EU 1 of their 3. Like, and I think you can talk about maybe how some playstyle things might make them better suited for winning best of 1s than best of 5s. You know, maybe people always talk about the playstyle stuff. I think it's a little overdone sometimes, but they are definitely a slightly more risk-averse region, and maybe that leads to less volatile games. And so even when you get into like later stages where, take 2019, for example, FPX pops off, later on, their group stage was a little struggle where they were dropping games. Like, yeah, you can start debating that kind of stuff, but I just think they win their games more than any other region by a massive amount. And it happened again here. 5-1 SKT, 6-0 Damwon, and then their 4th seed gets out, and their 3rd seed wins their group. You know, it's hard for me not to think that they are, again, the best region after they had lost that crown for a little bit, and it can change still. We'll see from best of 5s, but at least in group stage, they're no fucking joke.
But is it because of the mid lane? Mostly?
I mean, partially, sure. I think it's like maybe less some of the individual skill stuff. They seem more disciplined in a lot of ways. And the mid lane thing is definitely true. I think like 4th place mid laners from other regions would not be nearly as good as Chovy. Yeah. Who's the 4th best mid in NA? Or like who would be our 4th place team?
I guess it would be Power of Evil if the swimmer standings are to be
Power
taken.
of Evil.
It's not that bad, Simon.
Probably still Bjergsen.
Yeah.
Not even
Bjergsen is hard.
Just
Power of Evil isn't even the best mid laner on TSM.
You know what? I take it back. Korean mids are overrated.
Wait, I didn't think you were taking anything back.
Let's do the full 180. LCK has the worst mids at the tournament.
Yeah, I like the caller's take. I don't know if it's true or not from a like that's the biggest
I think it's absolutely
component
true
of the gap.
to say that their mid lane is like of the 5 roles that Korea is sending to Worlds, their mid lane is the strongest.
Yeah, but he's also saying that like that it's so strong that that's what's pushing the difference between LCK and everybody else in terms of performance. And like I don't know if it's true or not because I'm too dumb to know. But at the very least, like I do kind of think there might have been a missed opportunity where thinking like maybe traditional sports or in other places, it would have been like there would have been a bunch of like teases and a bunch of drama around like the LCK mid lane gods. Like these are the 4 guys that are coming here to like fuck everyone. And
whoa.
That's what they'd be saying. Dash would be saying that on the broadcast.
All right.
I so wish that because like these are the 4 that have made finals lately. Like the 4 mid laners that have like been to a Korean finals lately. So that like is the narrative.
Yeah, and perhaps it was not talked about enough because it is true that like these are the 4 harbingers of the apocalypse.
Let me ask a question to the caller then. So you still think, regardless, that the LCK teams are largely overrated and it's just the mid laners. What would change your mind? Because it's a weird group stage where, you know, you have 3 Korean teams on one side.
Yeah.
So you're not really going to see them play anyone but other Korean teams, except Mad Lions, and then whoever they meet in the finals. Unless Gen G wins and then, you know, they continue to beat some other teams or whatever. But what would change your mind to be like, wow, LCK actually is the most dominant region?
What would change my mind is with the exception of Damwon Kia, because like I will say that like Damwon Kia's players are largely an exception to this because they look like they're the best team in the world again. I would love to see more kind of playmaking not like on the backs of the mid laners for the rest of these LCK teams. Like I think the most egregious is Hanwha Life. Like every game, their game plan is like feed the puppy and the puppy is Chovy. Is just like get Chovy all of his win cons. And it's a one-dimensional play style, and it's working for them, but it's like definitely one-dimensional. Genji a little like less so, but they still definitely heavily rely on BDD. I guess they have like Ruler in the bot lane who like popped off today. And again, T1 kind of less than Hanwha Life or even Genji, but I do feel like a lot of like their mid-game playmaking and a lot of their shot calling obviously is from Faker. So I guess I would just like love to see like these teams kind of be put, or like just individual games, they put more like get more responsibility and more kind of like tools for playmaking or carrying on the backs of other players, which I guess don't even have a reason.
Isn't that
to
weird
do.
though? If you think that the mid laners are the best players in the world in their respective roles, why would I not play around my ace?
Yeah, I don't think that like it's a bad strategy, because like I mean, if I am like an LCK coach, I agree. Like if I have like Chovy on my team, I'm like I'll play through him every time. But I don't think that like that makes it like a unnecessarily good strategy, or at least like it definitely makes you one-dimensional, which I think is like a very easy weakness to see in a team. And like hypothetically, if better teams were to come along, a weakness that could be exploited.
I just think that's the way the game is largely played. Like, I don't think it proves some point to be like, Faker, you're playing Malzahar, and that's going to show that you're versatile and we can play through top.
No,
Like,
I agree.
yeah.
I don't think the caller's, you know, it was Mark's sort of.
Well, I just meant
theoretical,
like, you know, if Genji makes
how could I be
finals,
convinced?
it would change his mind. Or I was thinking more outcomes, like what do you want to see? Like, oh well, they lost,
Yes,
but like
yeah.
Genji played a 5-game series against EDG, the LPL champions, and this is the 3rd place seed, you know, from LCK.
Yeah,
That
I
kind of
guess
proves.
if to that point, if Genji or Hanwha Life in particular can make deep runs, I think I will feel otherwise. Because Damwon Kia, I think, is just the best team, and T1, even if they do well, I'll give like the Faker excuse in my mind, because of course Faker wants another trophy. But if Genji or Hanwha were to do it, then I think I'd really believe in their teams as a cohesive unit more than just like a really good mid laner.
Well, we'll have to see how things play out. Emulator, thank you so much for the call. I think, you know what? We're doing it. I'm giving you a game feel victory caller, because I think it was a pretty unique take, and I liked it. Even if you weren't able to convince Mark or Ender, I think it was like a well thought out push and a different way of looking at the world's results so far that I haven't heard from other people. So I will send you a friend request. Just send me a message on Discord. We'll figure it out. But you'll be getting a case of Mountain Dew Game Feel. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Yeah, shout out Cloud9 and Mad Lions, the last Western hopes of the league. Shout out to my partner Sully for staying up with me so late, because we're both on Eastern time, and they're the only one crazy enough to stay up with me. And shout out to Alienware and Game Fuel, because this is the meta in Travis Gabbard Industries.
Very good. Thank you so
much.
Thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you later.
See ya.
There we go. Okay, so thank you to the caller. We're gonna get them hooked up. I'm trying to find this before we get into speaking of Game Fuel, the Game Fuel call. Can somebody help me find the Mark hadn't seen it yet, and I want to talk about it. The LPL suggestions on how they. Oh, you found it?
Yeah.
It's so good. It deserves a call out on the show, and I just want to find the thread so that I can do it. Somebody will find it.
There's been some really good LPL ones too. I don't know if you saw the video of like FPX getting hit by the car.
No, Jesus.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
That sounds worse than it is.
Yeah, there was a LPL, like how they could swim home was the thing, and I really wanted to see that, but I can't find the thread now. So if somebody wants to find that, I want to dictate the video just for the podcast listeners who can't hear. But while Twitch chat is hopefully finding that for me, or somebody is, I want to talk about Game Fuel. Mountain Dew Game Fuel are sponsors for every episode of Hotline League this year. Thank you so much to them. I was actually running so low, and then we were able to get a new setup just in time. So thank you. I will have this Game Fuel ready for me as quarterfinals roll around and everything else rolls around. It's going to be awesome. The other thing is they recently sent me, it's in my living room right now. I'm reorganizing the office. I was talking a little bit before the show started. But they sent me a custom Game Fuel fridge with my logo and name and all this cool stuff on it. And so that'll be in the background soon. I can't wait to show that off. But that affects me more than all of you. So let's talk about something that does affect you, which is going to gamefuel.com/Travis. You can check out all the different flavors of beverage that they have now. Unfortunately, if you didn't hear my cries for you to try out Sherbet, Courageous Sherbet, that flavor is now, it's gone. It's sold out. It was so good. But the cool thing is you can still try the other stuff with their new Victory Pass. They've updated it now. If you're not familiar with it, it is basically like a battle pass where when you order cases on through their website, you can level up your Victory Pass and unlock different things, including discount codes and LED accent strips is one of them. You got a fanny pack. Those are coming back in style right now. T-shirts, controller skins, headset stands, all sorts of stuff. Actually, it's kind of crazy because you've got 6 months to fill this thing up. So if you order enough, you can actually get some pretty cool stuff on here. And anyway, you can see all that over at gamefuel.com/Travis. And if you use code Travis when you check out, you can actually save on your order of Game Fuel. And by the way, I know I've mentioned this before, but it's always really cool when you guys tweet at me, or you mention there's a Game Fuel spam chat in the Discord, the flavors that you're getting or when you're trying it or whatever. It's neat to see how many people have tried it and really enjoyed the product. So thank you so much to Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. And look, Monster Ashu says Game Fuel cured my loneliness. No joke. I can't comment on whether or not it's not an FDA approved message, but clearly it does a lot of things for some people. All right. Lion Nation says, do you pay guests to appear on the show? No. Ender is getting $0 for this.
Come on, man.
I will. He's just finding that out now.
But I'm getting so much exposure.
It's true. He's getting exposed on this show. That's definitely true. Did anybody find me this LPL thread? Oh, man, I was really hoping somebody would find it. Oh, maybe. Oh, I see some stuff getting deleted in the chat. Maybe they linked it and it died. I don't know. If we ever find it, that would be swell. But it's okay if we didn't. Oh, man, it was so good. Okay. TomShoe is here. Oh, boy. Just so everybody knows, there are timestamps in the description of every YouTube video. So if you're watching this on YouTube,
you're gonna do them like that?
Yeah, where's the love? It's been a while.
I love TomShoe, but you are a controversial figure on the show, and a lot of people.
The glorious return of the one and only. Come on.
Yes, it's what your boy is now. The domestic play in LCS is over, so you can show your face again after all the Yasui stuff. And yeah,
bro, okay. We'll talk about that.
Where are you calling from, Tom?
Calling from Washington, D.C.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about, TL's performance at Worlds and how I definitely feel like Tactical is probably going to be gone after this Worlds performance, regardless of, how we felt TL does overall. Because I think that at this point, we are starting to hit an impasse with Team Liquid where it is very difficult for them to find meaningful upgrade in most positions. As of now, if I'm correct, they are still rubbing up against the import limit with both Alphari and Core being imports, and I believe Core is still working on his green card. So I think given Tactical's issues and let me make it clear that I love Tactical and he's a fantastic player. I wish he didn't have to leave Team Liquid because I was really rooting for him the whole way. But there was a lot of questionable plays, a lot of getting caught with flashes out, a lot of stuff that I saw that I don't think Steve would be very happy with, because in my opinion, he is a very performance-based owner, and that Team Liquid has very high expectations set of their players, and if you don't perform when it matters, then that you will likely be replaced. I think he should stay, but I don't think that Steve will necessarily feel the same way.
I pulled this for you.
I completely agree with everything you just said, and Mark knows he very clearly this is why he pulled you, because I said this
Yes, for
exact
you.
same thing to Mark earlier today when we were watching Worlds.
Yeah, I
He's
don't
like-
want it to happen, but
It was before he even did the face check with his W. I forget which game it was. They had lost one of their games before even the knockout or the tiebreaker, and Travis was like, "Tactical's gone next year. They're gonna replace him."
Yeah,
And I was like,
it's
"What?"
Yeah, I would be really surprised if Tactical is still on Team Liquid. And this is not. I feel like I have to caveat all this stuff because otherwise it ends up on subreddits and people think I'm like reporting something. I've not heard anything. There's no like grapevine stuff about like, oh, X team is looking to pick up Tactical, or like Steve's got Tactical on the market or something. But I wouldn't be surprised if I hear that soon. TomShoe's completely right.
my God.
Steve is always in the mindset of what can I do to tweak or change or what's going on or whatever. I think Tactical has done really phenomenal for the time that he's been on the team and sort of the context he was brought in, which was like last minute with double lift on or whatever. But I just would be surprised if like I don't think his international appearances have been that great yet, and I think on high pressure situations, Tactical oftentimes seems to have issues. I think he's a very young player, and I think he will get better. This is not me trying to flame him, but it is in the context of Team Liquid and how Steve runs that team and what he does. Like, you know, Tactical got a second year to try. I don't think that Steve is probably going to look at him in the second year and say, good. I think the question is, who does he get in exchange? I'm going to do something. So I was planning on doing a video sometime this week, which was like 4 or 5 big predictions or guesses for the off season. And this was going to be one of them, but I don't have rumor mill stuff yet, but I would not be surprised if Alfari also leaves Team Liquid, given how bumpy that relationship has seemed this year. And I think maybe, you know, I know that people don't normally import in the bot lane, but like that also leaves extra flexibility if, for instance, you know, Steve feels like he can bring somebody else into the top lane that is North American or North American resident or something like that. And again, like I know Peter Dunn is in the chat right now and is like decrying us advocating for import players or assuming that there has to be max import players. I don't know if you guys saw how the team owner stuff from this spring, but I think it's not us that assume that you have to have max imports on a team. I think it is the team owners who think you have to have max imports on a team. And yeah, I just and some you know and want more even. So
all right, so we're
oh my
predicting
God,
Steve,
Travis,
but
you said I talked a lot.
what do you think, Ender?
my
Do you
show.
think Tactical underperformed? Do you think he's going to get evaluated?
I mean, I think that. Oh no, my EV fell. That's sad. Much like Tactical did. EV fell. Honestly, like I think Tactical is solid. I think he had a pretty rough day. But yeah, I think overall the assessment like Teal will make changes is like just correct. Like it's like pretty similar to G2 in the sense where like if they're not winning, they're just going to make changes. And I think that when you are looking at the roster, AD carry is probably the obvious place to check out. I actually think the take that Alfari might be on a different team is based, Travis. But
yeah,
I
just think
don't
it's
know
very
anything about that. I just think that's based.
So the thing for me is the Alfari angle makes it more interesting, but it is a much riskier move, but I also don't know what domestic AD carries you're gonna get unless you're like welcome double lift back, because I don't Danny and
Players
FBI.
count. They can chuck FBI, and if they can steal
FBI's got
them.
2 years
here's the
left on his
thing.
contract.
Fudge
Yeah,
was in
here's
the
the thing.
chat earlier today,
Ender-
dropping rumors.
Ender, you
I
are
can-
doing the thing. You are doing the thing that I know you're just joking, but like fans of their teams in the off season, they still like the scene is not mature enough, or maybe there's just enough rotating chairs and musical chairs on the space that they don't understand that like Steve can't just be like, I'm just going to show up at Danny's house with a giant sack of cash and just bring him over. Like, it's not a thing of if he wants them. I think EG, I mean, one of my other big predictions for the offseason is going to be that EG is going to, like, try to build a super team, essentially, or go really big next year. And I just don't see them letting go of Danny in that. So it is a very good question about who they get. I'm very curious.
Do you mind if I keep going?
Yeah, go for it.
Like, I can already like imagine how the situation is going to play out, and a lot of it depends on, you know, whether Core kind of gets his green card. Like, I'm already imagining after that Bush play, like fucking Steve immediately drove up to the White House and like marched through President Biden's door and said, like, listen up, bro, you better give him my green card, like, right fucking now. I swear to God. But yeah, if he doesn't get that, then it certainly makes their options a little bit more limited. I know there are some good AD carries in Academy if they want to go that route. If Alfari is also gone, they could look at someone like Luger, or I believe Karzi hasn't resigned yet. Like, there are options out there. It just really depends on not only if Santorin stays, that's, you know, Santorin and Jensen who also stay, which are, I believe they count as resident players.
Yeah,
but,
I think I would be surprised if either of those players leave.
Yeah, I can't see any better situation for them to be in than TL.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think one big question is if Steve also feels like he needs to get another jungler just because of Santorin's health issues. Not to say that he would drop Santorin because of the health issues, but like, you might, I don't know, he should at the very least make sure he has like a very strong academy backup. And maybe they believe in Greg enough that like that'll be fine, but or Mayo. But I don't know. I think that's interesting. I am so hoping we don't have like. What I don't want is another year like last year, where like the majority of the players like rotate out of the league and then everybody fucking swaps all over the place. I think there will be some big moves this offseason, but like I would hate it if like some people are like TL Bjergsen. If Bjergsen ends up on there and then like Jensen's on EG and then Yasui is on TSM, like I just there's
let's
all sorts
fucking
of
go. That's instant worlds win right there.
I don't know. I'm a little nervous that we could see something like that because owners are obsessed with just moving pieces around. But I don't know. I think the only thing that Tactical might have going for him in the safety, you know, if he ends up on TL, is that maybe they just don't feel like they can find like another option. So we will see. Anyway, good job, TomShoe. You did it. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm proud of me too.
Is there anything I know you are. Is there anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, not too much. I am just really excited to see how the off season plays out. I think this is probably has the potential to be one of NA's strongest off seasons in years.
Strongest?
Just given the amount of talent that. Wait, say what? What did you say?
You said strongest off season?
Yeah, strongest off seasons in years, just given the amount of talent that absolutely wants to come and play for NA and all the great talent that is in amateur and all in the minor regions. Like, I think our academy, I think basically all of our LCS and academy regions are going to be absolutely disgusting this year. Like, still, like, Yasui is going to come back. He's going to fucking smurf and win it all. But,
hey,
the
so
ride will
call.
still be amazing to have.
We'll catch you on the future episode.
Yeah, I will be back.
We should institute if the word Yasui comes out of his mouth, it's like a safe word, like a stop word.
Well, I started it anyway.
Kicked.
My bad.
You started the first time, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we've got one more caller to go. Ender, how you holding up? You tired yet?
I'm tired, but we're powering through.
Okay.
I just got a lot of secondhand hopium over there, so that's going to carry me through the next call.
Very good. Thank you, Land, 7J2, Bruce Maximus, and Damon for gifting a sub. Scott is here. Scott, where are you calling from?
Dallas, Fort Worth.
Dallas, Fort Worth. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, first, I just want to say, holy shit, it's such a good time to be a fan of League of Legends right now. I think the last 3 or 4 days has to be some of the best days to be a League of Legends fan for a very long time. So much hopium, copium, huffing, so many tiebreakers. It was just such a good time to be a fan, and I loved waking up at 6 a.m. every day.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely been an entertaining Worlds for sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk about how I think LPL's decline in this group stage was caused from a huge overconfidence, kind of boosted from the community and a lot of these co-streamers and these tier lists and stuff, just putting 3 out of 4 of the LPL teams in the top. And I think NA's kind of surge, where we did fall a little bit short, but I think the surge happened because of this underdog mentality that's been brewing for the last 2 years.
Sorry, are you suggesting LPL's decline was because they were overhyped? Like,
yeah, I mean, we saw
co-streamers placing them high on tier lists made them underperform at this event? I'm trying to understand where the linkage.
Yeah. I think the overconfidence, they came in thinking they were the best and they didn't put in the work that other teams did because they just came in expecting to already be the best.
Travis, you told me a rumor that the LPL teams only scrimmed each other.
Oh, yeah. I want to be very careful on this. This was like a stupid rumor I saw on Reddit. It's like the same rumor that everybody's repeating. Sorry, if somebody did actually say this, like if it came from somewhere, like, I don't know, like if LS or somebody said this on his stream, then like, I apologize, but my understanding was this was just something that like somehow ended up on Reddit and everybody was talking about it. Is it like probably something that was like a community theory that became a rumor. So I don't know if that's the case. It certainly feels like it could be the case. Like it seems like a very reasonable thing, but Ender, you're frowning.
I'm frowning because, first of all, and I know this probably, like, this is not your argument, but, like, no LPL player was looking at, like, LS's power rankings.
How dare you fucking slander LS like that?
Okay.
No.
Okay, yes.
And Doms and ours and the LPL, they all put Doinby #1 as the best player at Worlds. They did their own Worlds Top 20 list, and Doinby thought that he was the best mid laner in the world, and he tried to ego on kids and he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, caller, this is where I'm a little worried or concerned about your take, is if you do think that the LPL teams got confident because of like Western media and content creators, like I just don't think that they're paying as attention to that stuff as perhaps you think they are.
I think Doinby posted a video that like he was bragging they were coming to Iceland on a private plane and stuff. I think there's no way they're not looking at the tier list personally, but I guess I can't confirm that.
Didn't Riot get them that plane?
Yeah, Riot got them the plane supposedly.
I don't think that's them like coming in with like Versace drip going, we're the best and we're rich and we're gonna kill you with our wallets.
I don't think FPX is like, oh my god, did you see LS's tier list? Fucking get the private plane, boys. We're winning Worlds. We can afford this shit. Throw it on the credit card.
Okay.
Dom,
throw it on the MasterCard. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Let me buy you a new Rolex because you're supposedly the best mid laner.
Oh my god. Okay. So I want to go a different direction because
I think it's
I want to go a different direction with taking this down, which is basically like the LPL didn't collapse. Like I just think this is completely incorrect. I think everyone like ridiculously overreacted. I think Fun plus Phoenix collapsed, and that's fair to say. But again, I would say that is also a single day where that happened, and that I would not read a ton into that. Like, I guess you could say EDG finished before T1, but we had this conversation like all throughout today that like LPL teams historically like will just get second place in their groups, right? I think IG versus Fnatic is a great example that Mark brought up earlier. Like LCK teams, no surprise here that a bunch of them are coming out as the first seeds in this one. So I think like, and like LNG, most analysts would have not predicted them to make that out of Group D. I think they were like for sure the worst LPL team that is coming into this tournament. So I think, yeah, I personally from like the last couple of days, you're not the first person that I've heard say like LPL collapse or something like this, but I think it is completely unrealistic to say that like the region is so much worse this year or anything like this. Like, no, they were for sure sending in 3 really strong teams into this tournament. EDG and RNG are still very strong, and FPX just collapsed.
Okay, but Ender, can you understand why people think this? Because going into groups,
yeah, because we played best of ones in 6 of them, and that's it.
I will say, like, I understand where people are coming from, though I actually do agree with Ender. My putting on the devil's advocate hat, it's like, okay, FPX went 0-4 on the second half. Then EDG went 1-2, RNG went 1-2, LNG went 1-2. None of them had a winning record in their last day of games, which maybe was them getting overconfident. Now, would I chalk that up to tier lists and media? Probably not. I mean, I think it might just be that one team collapsed, but they still had 2 teams get out. If FPX didn't collapse, they should probably get out. And LNG, like you said, 3-3 in that group, going up against an EU #1 seed, NA #2 seed, and a Korea #3 seed. Like, they had a pretty respectable showing. So I am with Ender in that. Like, I think the collapse was overhyped, but there is a very strong narrative through line that in the second,
Not
on
just
their final
that.
day of games, none of them had a winning record, and one of them went 0-4.
Not just that, but like, I Ender, hear you on the fact that like we might get to knockouts, and then maybe LPL will go crazy or something like that. I mean, I guess they.
I mean, they play each other.
Yeah,
so
they
we can
play each
only
other. But
have
I'm just
one
saying,
team,
like, maybe we'll see something where suddenly LPL wins at the end, and we all thought like it was going to be Damwon or something. I don't know, or they just crush it. Difficult because of the knockout thing, like what Mark was saying earlier on how to evaluate LPL. But I think a lot of people think they collapsed because going into this event, everyone was hard on the LPL hype train and like pretty down on LCK. Like Chronicler was in chat earlier pointing out how like all year long people have just been saying like Damwon was a one-team region, and or like there's just a giant gap from Damwon to everybody else. And so like I hear you on the LPL side. The thing is like most people are comparing LPL to LCK, and LCK right now looks great. And yes, maybe it is all these best of ones or whatever, but like the results from this group from this group stage do look very different than what people thought. And I don't think it's just FPX. I think it is also like the incredible showing that the LCK put up in groups. And so I think that's part of the reason why people are like, oh, wow, we really thought LPL was going to look so good, but look how good LCK is doing. They are doing what a lot of people thought LPL was going to be able to do. I think that's why like it has been it's turned into like a collapse.
Yeah, I just think we need to go back and look at previous years, and like we see this trend. Like I think it's like like if you just go back and literally look at like the groups, like this has happened before. And it seems very weird to me because people were overreacting after the first round robin, right? Like people were saying this even before FPX collapsed. Like when I think like Damwon beat FPX or something like that, like they were already starting to say this.
I mean, FPX was already looking rough.
Well, and I tweeted, it's probably my most liked tweet ever. I like updated the world's tier list, and I literally just put all the Eastern teams at the top and all the NA and EU teams at the bottom. I put PSG in the middle, and everyone, was like, yeah, it's so true. We all suck now. And then it's like, well, you can tell that we're actually competitive at least, we're not dog shit.
No, I'm not rewriting the pre-group Sorry, I got mad at someone in chat. I'm not rewriting any of the pre-group's takes. I still think
Shout out to Mini Mike Wazowski for tilting Ender. Sorry, go ahead. Ender.
Well done. I think LPL was really strong coming into the tournament. I still think they're exceptionally strong. Just because one team underperformed doesn't invalidate any analysis. Anyways,
I love it. Ah, God, I love seeing you get
I thought
up.
people, Ender, did you not think that? I think a lot of people thought EDG would be the better team in that group.
Yeah, and they're down one game, dude.
Yeah, and they beat them once. It was right.
It's like, yeah, it's to me that's like. It's insane that we take a single result like that and go, yeah, LPL so much worse than we thought they were going to be. They lost a game. Oh no, like it's wild.
So I'm
we
with you.
can only do what we have the data for, and the roles format right now is just groups.
So if these results happened over the course of the full group stage, as opposed to this kind of final day collapse, like I was saying narratively, I don't think people would say that the LPL collapsed. I think they would just say Fun Plus collapsed. Like if EDG wasn't 3-0 and then went 1-2, but instead was like 2-1 and then went 2-1 again, I don't think people would say that they collapsed. It's just because of the fact that a number of their teams were 3-0 or whatever, and Fun Plus just died. But like otherwise, Fun Plus is the only team that collapsed, really. To Ender's point, the other things are just like potentially statistical aberrations. The only, once again, to harp on the knockout stage, the problem is EDG and RNG are going to play each other. It'd be much easier to tell if
here's my
LPL
point.
is overhyped if they
Ender,
played...
will they collapse if Cloud9 beats them?
If Cloud9 beats them, then LPL might not exist next year.
Okay. Okay, that's the fun one. What happens if Gen G beats them in the semifinals, right?
I mean, I would be amazed to see Gen G beat those teams. Again, like coming into the tournament, like I think I sort of said it. It was like if I was to predict a team to win Worlds, it is either Dom1 or the 3 of the 4 LPL teams. Like, because honestly, between RNG, EDG, and FPX, it was like very tight between all 3, and RNG looked really strong in the gauntlet. So like, I felt like the top teams in LPL were very close to each other. Dom1 was very clearly the best from the LCK. So like, those were my 4 teams coming in. So yeah, I think Gen G beating either RNG or EDG would be like very shocking.
Right. So like, if one of those teams loses before finals, because RNG, EDG, one is going to lose to each other, and then they should make finals. And then if they lose to Dom1, can you really say the LPL like super underperformed other than FPX? I don't even think you could really make that case.
The only way is if they have to make it to finals to not underperform.
As a region, yeah, I'd say so for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise, you still made finals.
The stakes are set. All right. Caller. Scott, I'm sorry. Yes. I know we memed on you a ton.
Yeah.
Your take was a little wild, but I appreciate it anyway. And it did spawn a great moment where Ender screamed at Twitch chat. So I appreciate you having the take.
I feel like a large part of this show is just trying to break our mental.
Yeah, well, especially our guests. It's the best whenever, because Mark and I we've done almost 200 episodes of this show. So
we're resilient now.
TomShoe calls in, Twitch chat says something that, Twitch chat freaks out the caller, but then says something even more stupid. We're just here, for the ride. Whereas the callers, the guests come on and they are not exposed to this, and you just see them fall apart.
There was one part of it is that I think NA did so good because of this underdog mentality that's been brewing for 2 years, and they 100% are seeing the co-streams views. I was curious what you guys think about that.
Well, I do know that Fudge watches LS's co-stream, so I just can straight up go ahead and confirm that one. Honestly, my take on like player mentality stuff is I actually really hate commenting on it because it is pure speculation. Like, I know for a fact there's no way Perks is going. I'll comment on Perks. I know him. Like, there's no way he's going into his games going like, guys, we're the underdogs. We got nothing to lose. We're so much worse than everyone else. No one thinks we're gonna be good. Let's beat them. Like that doesn't happen. But like overall, I think commenting on like player thought processes and like mentality going into things is something I never like to speculate on unless they're coming outright and saying it. Because it's like I don't think any LPL team was taking it easy coming into the tournament because it was going to be so easy for them, right? I think every team is trying exceptionally hard. And
I have a question on that.
Either end of the
so one thing I'll say too is like every player definitely has an ego that will be affected by public perception of them. That's absolutely true. Any pro player who's retired will tell you like, oh, I used to Google my name or like search it or like I'd see myself getting hyped up or whatever. And like on some level, I'm sure a lot of LPL teams were very confident heading into the tournament, but that's also probably based on their own perception of themselves, regardless of what the commentators were saying. So were they overconfident? Maybe, but
that's the thing. It's maybe, right? We don't know for sure with any of them, which is why I really dislike these kinds of like conversations, because like I would just much rather talk about how they actually played and things that I know and can prove and can see than, oh yeah, I think they were overconfident because they were looking good going into the second round robin, but then they didn't because of their confidence.
Also, some players like Doinby are just like hilarious, over the top jokesters, and I don't want to say like I don't know the word for it. Like he's intentionally over the top and not being humble and like tweeting at people and shit.
He's playing it up.
Yeah, that's just his personality. So like to say he's overconfident because we saw him say that they were gonna not drop a game the rest of group stage, like that's just how that dude talks, you know?
I had this thought earlier too. I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I saw somebody, I'm thinking my Twitter replies, who was just saying like, "Oh man, you could just tell from the player cams and from TL and Mad, like the mental for Mad is just way better than like TL." And like the player cam analysis is like, I think it's fun sometimes, like whenever a player fucks up and you just see them like visually react in a way on the player cam way. But I hate like the player cam therapists or psychologists or whatever that are just like, look at the 5 players throughout their game versus the 5 players on the other side. Like that doesn't necessarily mean their mental is different. It might just be that they've got a different I don't know, atmosphere or something, you know. The game is different for them, or I don't know. One of them has to go to the bathroom really bad, which was the case with Larson apparently in their one of their games. I did that interview with him, and he was talking about how he couldn't pause. So I don't know. I agree with the overconfidence or player mentality stuff. It's just hard sometimes.
Unless you like know the teams, like because like Peter Dunn is saying like Mad have insane mental, and I'm like, yeah, I know Mad Lines, like that's true.
Yeah, Peter Dunn in the chat, by the way. For
but it's just like unless you're like closely integrated with them, like how can you comment on it? And like I actually get furious when I see people online like at like putting these like stories in and talking about it. It really bothers me too when like casters and stuff will like start commenting on it, like when it's like, oh, it looks like the nerves are really getting to him and stuff. I'm like, I don't like that. Talk about the game.
Fucking Kobe today, Kurtz. I love Kobe, obviously. I live with him. But today, it was so tilting. Mark might remember this. Kobe in one of their the TL games, I think it was the TL tiebreaker. He's like, and I know he didn't cause it to happen, but it was such a tilting. He's like, you know, it's all on the line for these players right now. Like every misstep, every mistake, all it could take is just one error. And then like tactical ints, like as Kobe is saying this, and then right afterwards, Vedius just goes like, "Oh, you were just saying it, Kobe. Like it could totally happen. Like these players could just make these mistakes, and we see it from tactical." And I'm just like, "Fucking kill me! Like why, Sam? Why did you say that? Why?" Like it just, it was so painful.
I am a little more forgiving of people speculating about the human element. I mean, you never know for sure, and I think speculating is like sometimes okay, depending if you do it well. But I think to say like the LPL teams were overconfident, yada yada yada, that gets into like the Skip Bayless territory where I don't want to go. But if I'm like watching a player not play well at Worlds, I think it's fine to be like, wow, this is way below his level. I wonder if nerves are affecting him or
posing
something.
the question is cool, I think.
Yeah.
As you could tell, this player must have just had some Taco Bell beforehand. That's one of the concerns of playing in North America.
You can tell by his inability to sit still that his butthole is just burning from the tacos that he ate
Scott,
last
thank you
night.
so much for the call. It's that time of night. Mark needs to get to sleep. Scott, anything you want to shout out before we close out the show?
I just actually want to shout out Travis and Mark of Hotline League. Just want to thank you. I've been watching since Worlds last year. Just about every single week. Thank you for getting me through my long car drives for work. Also, shout out, of course, to Game Fuel and Alienware. Use offer code Travis. Just buy it. You know you want to. If you're in the Twitch chat right now, just go buy it. You know you want to.
Thank you so much. Love Ender just in pure shock from this. But thank you, Scott. I do appreciate that. And it's always really cool.
And of course, Ender's the best. Ender's great.
He's whatever. He admitted on the start of the show that he only came on this one after I'd asked him on a bunch because he didn't want to before. So
would you rather be forgotten or be an afterthought? I think I'd rather be forgotten than get a pity shout out.
Scott, thanks for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show, Ender. Okay, that's the show. Stick around on stream. I'm going to be playing some Genshin and stuff. Mark, what do you want to shout out?
Nothing. It's 9/11. It's past my bedtime. I want to go to bed.
Ender, what do you want to shout out or plug?
League sucks. Play Valorant.
Oh, I came on this show just to.
That's the plug.
Just bait it all the way on here. Yeah, comparing the Valorant tournament this week to the to the League tournament this week, I can definitely tell you, League sucks. Pay attention to Valorant.
On the other game train, I'm playing Genshin a lot. We'll see if I have the energy to stream it one of these nights if I'm still waking up for Worlds. Because it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Or did they compress it and it's 2 days of 2 best of 5s? What is the schedule?
I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. So I'll probably try and keep my sleep schedule jacked up, which might mean I might stream in the middle of the night Genshin.
The games start 1 hour later though. Now they start at 5 instead of 4.
Yeah.
For Pacific.
Well, either way, I'd still be getting up at 5, which is to me a jacked up sleep schedule.
Yes. I think to most people it's a jacked up sleep schedule. That sleep schedule's jacked. All right. For me, thanks so much for this. I've got interviews with Mad Lions and TL coming out. 2 of the few teams that actually do media content, apparently. And and then after that, guess what? My World's coverage is now all press conferences because Riot doesn't like to do interviews after groups anymore. So stay tuned for the press conferences. You'll love the questions you're going to hear from everybody. You always do. And then, but I will be.
Do you think you would have rather have won that series than lost it?
Or the ones that are great are like the losing team when they ask like a specific player, like, "Hey, I'm kind of curious. Like on Zoe that game, you died 4 times in a row. Can you explain that?" Anyway, stay tuned for press conferences. They're going to be bangers like always. But I will be starting my off-season coverage soon too, so that'll be fun. And yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, my World's coverage is over. But we'll still be talking about it on Hotline League Rift Reaction and Run It, so you'll have that at least. But thanks everyone for listening. This has been Hotline League episode 193.